Good morning, colleagues.
Good morning.
Thank you. Just checking that our audio and video settings are working well. Yes, arise and shine for health and development. God bless you, hearts. Yes, great is you, hearts. On that note, I welcome all of you who are already here to today's open session. Today, we are meeting for a Q&A on Module 2, which began on Monday, the 27th. As we did in the previous week, we will take a very brief presentation on what we have been doing through the week or the module lessons for this particular week. And then other activities will follow, including our questions and the responses. But today's presentation and the Q&A session will be slightly different. We want to receive a lot of interaction from the participants. As well, we will be taking some live quiz sessions, not a graded quiz. We just want to have a fair idea how we are going about the lessons from everyone. We'll all see the polls directly on the screen. And so when that time is up, I will post a link in our WhatsApp group page and also the chats here for you to use your smartphone to log in and then vote to certain questions one after the other as we watch the results display in a visualized form. Today, we want to try and beat down the time. We wouldn't want to have a very extensive session as we did last week. Also, today's presentation is going to be just one because of the following reasons. One, this week's module actually is the practical essence of all that we are doing. And it is meant to introduce participants to the concepts that we are going to be implementing in the face-to-face session that comes off in week 5. And so we are not going to delve too much into the content of the slides, but just to give an overview of what the module is about: discovery and reuse of scholarly literature. We are going to be doing the actual practical in the week 5 face-to-face session. So without any more delay, I would like to call on my senior colleague, Mr. Dominic Ejay Dankwa, our metadata specialist and head of cataloging and classification at the University Library, University of Health and Life Sciences, to give us a brief summary of the lessons for this week's module. Thank you very much, and everyone is welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you, Fred. And thank you, everybody, for the opportunity to lead this morning's session. And as has been alluded to earlier, it's going to be very brief, and it's also supposed to be an engaging session. So as I go along with the presentation, if you have any question, any comment, feel free to post it in the chat and we will respond to them. Thank you. I want to briefly share my screen. All right. So this morning, as a synopsis for what we've been doing in the course of the week, we want to consider what I have themed as literature exploration. Literature exploration because sometimes people come to the library and they end up going out disappointed because they feel that once you get into the library, you should just find what you want. Some students will even come to the library with questions that their lecturers or their supervisors ask them to work on, and they are using the questions as their search queries. And most often they get disappointed. So the whole idea about information searching is actually exploring. You have to try different strategies. You have to use different tools, and you have to use different skills before you are able to come to the requisite information that you really need. So it's more of exploration. That's why I have themed it literature exploration. So basically, we are going to talk about identifying the relevant information. As you all bear with me, information has become the lifeblood of society today. Without information, organizations will struggle to succeed. Institutions will struggle to progress, and research will be difficult to conduct. So information is very key and very critical in every sphere of our lives. However, it is also important to note that even though information is important, it isn't every information that we will need, especially those of us working in the health sciences, in the health sector, in the agri sector, and in the civil society organizations. If we do not have access to the right information, the actions or the consequences of our actions could be fatal. As a medical professional, if you don't get the right information to help your patient, you can just understand or imagine what will happen. You are going to embark on a research and you don't have access to the right information. You end up getting your publication rejected or eventually retracted in the future. So whatever environment we find ourselves, we need the right information. If you're working in the NGO and you don't have access to the right information, you realize that the policies that you will make will not be able to stand the test of time. All right. So in identifying relevant information, wherever you find yourself, it is important to know the types of information available to you. And information can come in different forms or types. It can come in what we call the primary sources of information. It could be secondary or it could be tertiary. Regardless the form or the type, the information, one thing we should also bear in mind that information can be free or you have to pay for. All right. When we talk of primary information, we are talking about information that presents us with evidence, okay, original evidence. For instance, first-hand account of events will become a primary information. So if you are working in the hospital, for instance, and the patient's record is a first-hand information. If someone takes a lab report, that report becomes a first-hand information. So we categorize it as primary information. Now we talk about secondary sources, and here we are talking about, or we are referring to information that is based on the primary source of information. So someone is embarking on or writing a book. That person is going to use available primary sources of information to write that book. Somebody is writing a research. That person is going to read existing or available knowledge in order for him or her to be able to do or accomplish the research he or she is conducting. So that is secondary source of information. Now, tertiary sources of information is a blend of the primary and then the secondary source of information. The idea is to help information users to have what we call factual but brief information about events. Example could be the encyclopedia. Example could be the dictionary. So you realize that nobody will go and pick a dictionary and read from page 1 to the end, unlike a textbook. Normally, you refer to the dictionary just to satisfy a brief information need. All these sources of information could be in print or electronic. And these days, most of our information sources are finding themselves online. Apart from knowing the types of information that you can use in doing your work, there are various tools that you will need. There are various environments that you can find this information. In your workplace, one environment or one source is the people you work with. As a health practitioner, as a person working in the NGO or whatever, whenever you come across a challenge, one source of information could be your senior colleagues, your colleagues in the office. You may want to consult with them for their views on such information. But one thing I need to quickly say is that even those people as sources of information can be handy, such information can be full of biases or subjectivity. Every individual has its own biases towards a phenomenon. So when you're picking information from such sources, you should be very careful. Aside that, the library could be a good source of information when you're looking for information to make decisions. You are looking for information to write a paper. You are looking for information to inform policy. The library could be a great source to contact. Then we also have databases. Okay, so when I talk of the library, these days, the library could be a physical brick and mortar environment where you have to visit to pick a material to use. But the library could also be an online environment where information has been arranged in a systematic order for you to browse. Okay, so, and these days, most institutions, not just educational institutions, are having libraries. So the environment you find yourself, you may want to find out whether there is a library and whether there are librarians there who can always be useful or resourceful in getting the information that you need. So I mentioned databases. So if you are in the agric environment, we are talking about databases like Agora, which Research4Life is making available for all of us. We are talking about Hinari. We are talking about PubMed. We are talking about Science Direct and all that. These are sources where you can get authentic, credible, and authoritative information for whatever thing you are doing. We can also talk of search engines, and Google is an example of a search engine. The challenge with Google can give you, of course, it can give you great resources, but Google is a search engine. So most often when you are doing your search, rest assured that you will come across certain things that you didn't actually expect to see. And as we move on to the practical session, you realize that when you do a search with the same query in Google and you do it in a more academic environment, okay, like Google Scholar, you realize that there will be a vast difference as far as the results you will get is concerned. Then, aside search engines, we also have archives. Most institutions now have their repositories. So we have subject repositories, we have institutional repositories, and a lot that you can always access information for whatever you are doing. Aside this, we also have discovery tools that you can just install on your machine to help you to access information. So we have, for instance, last week in joining our session, we were introduced to connected papers. When you use connected papers, you are likely to get relevant information for what you are using for. We also have Open Knowledge Map, another great information discovery tool. And I'm just mentioning them. When we get to the practical session, we will get to know all this. We also have the EndNote Click, which otherwise we used to call the Compendium. These days we call it the EndNote Click. Once you have EndNote Click installed on your browser, it helps you to search for information with it's just a click, and then you are good to go. Now, after knowing all these environments, these tools, as an information user, you also need to acquire some skills. So for instance, you will need to know how to identify the concept to use for a search query. When normally when you come across a challenge, when you come across a situation, the situation will compel you to look for information. Now that situation will come with some keywords. That situation will come with some concepts. These concepts, if you are able to identify them well, will enable you to construct a good search query. Aside knowing the keywords, you will be introduced to what we call the Boolean operators. These are logical tools that can help you to combine your search queries together. So you'll be introduced the Boolean operators like the AND operator that helps you to bring related terms together, the OR operator, the NOT operator. And it will interest you to note that as we go on, the use of quotation marks, okay, on our search phrases can go a long way to give us refined results. For instance, if I'm searching for information sources in Google, for instance, and I just type information sources, Google is going to get me results that have the word information. Any article that has the word information is likely to come. Any article that has the word sources is likely to come. But when I put information sources in inverted commas or quotation marks, I am instructing, for instance, I'm instructing Google that in getting me the results, I want materials that have the word information and sources moving together. Otherwise, Google will give you material that have information, maybe on paragraph 1, and then sources in paragraph 2. As far as information and sources are in, Google will get it for you, or your search tool will get it for you. But when you put them in quotation marks, you are refining your search the better. Also, terms like truncation will become handy when we start doing our searches. Truncation, when we are just using the root of a word and then instructing our search system, is that when you see any word that begins with this particular root, I'm interested in it. For instance, instead of typing electricity, maybe I'm interested in articles that have the word electricity, electrician, electricals. Instead of typing all of these one by one, I can just type electric and then add the asterisk sign. And indirectly, my system, Google or whatever system I'm using, will understand that I'm looking for terms that have this root. So I'm just whetting your appetite for the week 5 face-to-face activity, so that as you come, you prepare to come and then see all this. Now, if you are able to combine all these skills, if you are able to exploit all these tools, if you're able to put all these things together, you are likely to come out with some good results. Now, when we get the results, as we indicated earlier, and as I am aware, most often when we do a search in Google, we get a lot of chaff, we get a lot of materials that we feel they are not relevant and all that. Even if they are relevant, we are not so sure whether we can use it for whatever we are doing. This is where we will have to get some skills in evaluating whatever information resources we come across. So as information users, we have to be critical as far as our use of information is concerned. And in critiquing information or evaluating information, there are a lot of standards that one can use. But briefly, whenever you come across information, you may want to question the authority of the information. Here we are talking about who the author is, not the name of the author, but we are talking about the expertise of the person who authored the resource, his affiliation and all that. When you are satisfied that the person who authored this information is an expert in the area, it gives the information a level of credibility. You are also interested in the accuracy of the information, whether the information you are reading is factual or it is somebody's subjective views. You are also interested in the currency of the information in the health sciences and even in research in general. It is advised that we use current information. However, some activities we do may demand for historical information and all that, but in our daily activities, we would be interested in current information. So briefly, when we talk of literature exploration, we are talking about the processes that you will go through and the skills that you will use to be able to get that credible information that can help you in your endeavor as a health practitioner, as an agric expert, or as a policy expert. So briefly, this is what the whole week's activity has been. And I want to just pause here, take questions, and then we'll take it from there. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, Dominic. All right, so colleagues, as I mentioned before, if you check your WhatsApp platform right now, the Research4Life group, I have actually placed a link there. That link will lead you to vote on a session just to gauge our progress with the materials for the week. So I don't know if we should go with that, or let's take the questions first, and then we'll go with the polls. I'll also post the link here in the chats, but you have to use your phone, and I'll also show the results on the screen. So during the polls, I'll share my screen where the live votes that you are casting, you will see the visualization right on my screen. I think it will work best for those who are having the session on their laptop, so that while you vote with your phone, you can actually be viewing the results right on your laptop. So please, let's start with the questions, I think. Please, you are free to unmute yourself and speak up, or put your question in the chat box. Thank you. Hello, colleagues. Any questions so far? Not necessarily on the presentation that Dominic gave, but throughout our engagement with the literature or the materials that we are reading, the lessons for the week. Have we come across any questions? Or if there are any general concerns outside the materials per se, we can still share them to help improve our progress. All right, perhaps you are trying to get your questions ready. So in order not to keep too long at today's session, I'll go straight with the polls. So kindly take your phone and follow the link I have shared on the WhatsApp group and also in the chats here. And let us see how we respond to the following questions. I'll also display the video of the results so we can see how we are voting along the questions that are coming for the polls. All right, let's start. Okay, so if you have your phone, you can also scan the QR code to directly link to the site where you'll be voting, or just touch the link on your WhatsApp platform, the group page, and it should bring you to the votes. I'll be starting off with the questions. So that's how the performance is going. So far, 24 people have answered. We have 20 people saying primary, 30 people saying secondary to the first question. The first question was interview recordings, transcripts, and speeches are dash sources of information. All right, let's move to the second question. So we have seen the response. Let's move to the next question. Encyclopedia and drug, sorry, that's supposed to be drug compendia, not that.
And the second we can be that.
Okay, we have 26 people, 27. Maybe that should be good to go. Can we move to the next question, please? Question 3, journal articles, article reviews, and book reviews. What type of source? Here we have 20 people responding. The majority is in secondary. 1 says primary source, and 4 are saying tertiary. But 19 say it is secondary. All right, let's move next. Question 4, original photographs and cultural artifacts. What kind of information source will those be? There's 1 vote for tertiary, 13 for primary, and no vote for secondary. All right, 1 for secondary. All right, we have 23 votes, 24 now, and majority are in primary. Secondary and tertiary share equally to 2. Okay, secondary has now gone to 3. All right, please, let's move forward to the next question. Question number 5, search engines, library catalogs, databases, and indexes are examples of. All right, so information sources has 3 votes. Information access tools has 19 votes, so there are 22 so far. We can move to the next question. Question 6. Dash involves building a query by combining search terms using Boolean logic and advanced search techniques to optimize precision and recall in an information retrieval system. So 3 votes for truncation, 6 for systematic search, it's leading now, 7. Meta search 1, evaluation of information resources 2. So we have hit over 20 voters now, and majority are in the systematic search. That is great. Question 7. The cited by, that is in quotes. So it's a link of PubMed and Google Scholar, and the derivative works of connected papers are examples of. I'm sure for those of us who have used any of these systems, PubMed, Google Scholar, or the connected papers that we learned from last week's session, you will be familiar with this cited by link. So what can we say it's an example of? We have 3 search engines and 3 forward citation chaining. Let's get up to 20 voters, and then we'll move to the next question. There's also 1 Boolean search logic. Now 2. All right, now we have reached above 20 participants. So we can move to the next question. But for citation chaining is leading by 15 votes. Search engines follows with 7 votes, and the Boolean search logic 3. The others, no votes. All right. Next question. Which of the following constitute the core elements of citation and referencing? Which of the following constitute the core elements of citation and referencing? Now, I've taken note of a comment on the WhatsApp page. So here I want to remind you that in a question like this, more than one option applies. More than one option applies for the answer. So we have 2 paraphrasing. I do not know what it is going along with. There are 6 in-text markers. I do not know what they are also going along with. There are 3 complete reference lists. Now 5, bibliography 6, at par with the complete reference list. All right. Okay. So some participants have chosen less than 2. So we now have almost 60 votes, but there are 24 participants. 60 with 25. So some 2 may have chosen more than 2. Okay, so above 20 participants, I think we can go ahead. So we have next question, and that should be the last question for the session. The Harvard method is a dash system of referencing. The Harvard method. So we have 2 APA and 1 parenthetical. Now AP is 4. The Harvard method. 17 people say it is the APA system of referencing. 4 say it is the parenthetical system of referencing. 2 say it is the author affiliation system of referencing. We have 23 participants. Any more participants? It's our last question. So let me give the room for almost everybody to vote on this one. All right, we have less than 20 minutes to the top of the hour, so we can stop this one also here. I'm going to stop it. Thanks a lot for your participation. It's just a way of assessing the class directly. As I mentioned, there are so many things we'll be doing, but very latently, we are not going to be speaking to them as instructional items. So just to show you that for those of us who organize meetings, it can be seminars, maybe town halls, the CSOs, I know you do a lot of town hall work. Those of us who do lectures as lecturers, or even if we have small conferences, there are so many tools that you can use to help you understand how your participants or students or audience is actually following what you are doing or saying. All right. So what you just saw is a live demonstration of the levels of or the degrees of progress we have made so far with the materials. Majority of the answers were correct, but there were also very many wrong answers. For example, the last one was asking about systems of referencing. Now, there are only two systems of referencing. It is either numerical or parenthetical. And Harvard is just one style. APA is also a style. All right, so Harvard is not APA. APA is not Harvard. They are two different styles. But of course, they are both following the parenthetical system. So those who choose parenthetical, they were right. And it was only in that question that I realized that the higher vote rather was a wrong answer. The highest vote went for APA. All right. So of course, I know that many people have not reached that level in their lessons yet. So it's understandable. Of course, it's not a graded item. We are not grading anybody for the answers. But just to help us understand, as mentioned earlier, this very week's module, you didn't see guest presenters because the topics are all going to repeat in the live session that we'll be holding face-to-face in week 5. It is the actual core of the training, the practical aspect of searching and referencing. And so our focus is more on just getting an introduction, and then we move everything to week 5 when we do the actual hands-on face-to-face. Now, the questions that we went through right now, you can also find them on the Teams platform, I think in channel 09, where we have the module evaluation. So you can check channel 09. I think in that channel, I used an app, the Poly app, which free version gives us, I think, only the first 25 participants. So if you're an early bird among the first 25, you'll be able to participate in that quiz, and you'll see your scores over there. Now, for the live or the real-time poll that I shared right now, I used the app called Poll Direct, or rather Direct Poll. Yeah, it is Direct Poll, written as one word. So if you want to explore it, you can find out how you can also use it for your sessions. There are so many others, like WooClap, Mentimeter, Kahoot. I mean, they are numerous. You can just Google that you want a live poll or a real-time audience poll or vote or something. All these apps will come up, but many of them are paid versions. They give you a very limited free, and the rest you have to pay for and all of that. So you could use this tool in any of your face-to-face or online engagements with audience. All right, now, the last thing from me is to clarify the quiz for this week. As mentioned, this week is more of a practical thing, and so we are not going to be having a quiz for our assessment. Instead, we are going to have a practical activity that is going to be assigned. And I'll be communicating that on Friday through the Teams app and also on WhatsApp. But I'll give you a glimpse of what it's going to look like. Let me just share my screen and let you see. Yeah, from my Word document, let me just show you this. I hope everyone can see this. All right, so the plan for the ongoing assessment is that in all the odd weeks, that is week 1, 3, 5, 7, which doesn't exist anymore because we're ending week 6. In all the odd weeks, you will have a Google form mediated quiz like we did for last week, the first week. But in all the even weeks, you'll be having tasks that will require you to perform some practical skills, all right? So with this current week that is processing practical things like the searching, referencing, and all of that, we would like you to take the week ending assessment this way. So for the week September 27 to October 1, you are required to complete the module 1, effective searching of a JSTOR course. Okay, JSTOR is one of the databases that is mostly for the humanities and social sciences. So for those of you who are working with history, geography, and all of that, you love JSTOR. There's the name, JSTOR, JSTOR. Now they have a very interesting self-paced free course on what they title Research Basics. And it's all about effective searching, how to establish credibility, or what they call evaluation of the information resources or sources, and how to cite and reference your scholarly work. So for week 2, you are going to be doing only the first module, that is effective searching. Now, each of the modules comprises 3 short video tutorials followed by practice tests. So this is what you are going to do for the week. Module 1, effective searching. The 3 lessons, you are going to follow them, watch the video tutorials on them. They include using library tools, followed by smart searching, and the last lesson, managing information overload. Those are the 3 videos you watch. After watching each of the 3 videos, they have included a practice test for you to test yourself if you understood the video and if you could actually apply the skills that you have been taught. Now, after doing all those watching and practicing, then the end of module quiz, is available for you to now do and be graded. Okay, so this is the one that you are going to be submitting to us. After you have gone through all this and you have done the end of module quiz, simply submit. In the submission process, you will be asked to provide an email address where your responses or your results should be posted. So you will put your own email address. Okay, you put your own, let me highlight it here for you. It should be your email address that you will put in there during the submission process. So they will actually send you a result of how you performed in the end of module quiz. So when they have sent you that email into your own email address that you supplied, simply log into your email and forward that message, which is your result, to the course email, research4lifegh@outlook.com. Then we'll record it for you as your performance on the second week module. So this weekend, we are not going to have the usual Google Forms quiz. No, you do this practical activity and then you forward your result to the email Research4Life GH. That is after you have received it in your own personal email address. So don't worry, I'm going to make a post on this, an announcement on the Teams platform for Friday, which is the end of the module. And I'll explain everything in detail. So there will be no confusion at all about what you are going to do. In the meantime, I want to thank all of you who have done the module evaluation. And just to clarify, the module evaluation is where we get feedback from you on how the particular module went in terms of the materials, the presentations, and every engagement on that module. That is different from your assessment, which is the quiz or the practical task that you have been assigned here. So for last week, we gave the quiz link, and then we also gave the module evaluation link. Now, all these are present in channel 09. I think that is where the module evaluations are, channel 09. All right. So please, those who have not done the quiz deadline has also been extended to Friday. But it will be Friday noon, because the task for this particular week will also begin that same Friday. We will not be able to extend the week 1 quiz beyond Friday, 12 p.m. So kindly try and finish the week 1 quiz and also the week 1 module evaluation. There are a lot of people also who still have not completed the pre-course assessment. The pre-course assessment helps us to understand your expectations and, shape how we deliver the modules. We have seen quite a number of them, and it's helping us to shape our delivery. In fact, today you should have had a guest presenter, but as I mentioned, because of the focus of this week's module on practical things, we have deferred it. So there's going to be a guest facilitator that will come and give a presentation to us on writing policy briefs. So how do we write a policy brief? Most of us are engaged in activities that demand certain changes in our society or communities. Now, in governance, change can only be effected through policies, all right? So as we engage with data, we engage in research, we do a lot of community development and sensitization work, we come across issues that must receive some policy directives to change or amend. So how do we put together the evidence to produce a policy brief that can be used by government to effect the change that we want to see in our community? So that is going to come probably next week. So please, let's make time for it. I want to thank you at this point, stopping my sharing so that any other questions that you have, we can take them in the next 5 minutes. So 11 o'clock exactly will be closing. Thank you very much. All right, so please keep your questions coming. I have not seen any question yet in the chats. Any questions so far? Okay, if there are no questions, what I would love to do is to also share another insight. All right, another insight. So I'll have to share my screen again. But along the line, please just stop me and then give us your question. All right, I have received some information on some of the module quiz questions and the options involved. I want to explain that on electronic platforms, okay, and I'll use this as an example. Let me click here and then go for the bullets. All right. On electronic platforms, when you see this symbol is a check mark or a checkbox, but this kind of check, when you click on it to answer a question, it ticks like this round tick dot here, okay? So this circular check is what we call radio button, a radio button. And on any online platform or form, when you are filling and you come across a radio button, that is a circular check, it means you have a strict choice of only one option, a strict choice of just one option. That is what the radio button does. So you realize that if you check one radio button and you go to check another one, the previously checked one will now become empty. So it will not allow you to check multiple options. All right. Now, the other system of responding is to see what we actually know as a checkbox, the square type. All right. When you see a checkbox to any option, it implies that multiple options apply. All right. It implies multiple options apply to answer that particular option. So, sorry that we didn't indicate in the question itself that you should select multiple options. But once you see a checkbox, automatically it tells you the answer is given by more than one option. And when you see the other one, the radio button, the circular one, that is what limits you to only one option. So that is just a quick clarification. But next time, we'll still add the additional information that you are to select more than one option to answer a particular question if we use checkboxes. So that briefly is what I wanted to say concerning the online platforms and what we can see. Yeah, from Dr. Da, he says, so far, so good. No question, please. Yeah, thanks a lot, Dr. Da. We are happy for your message. So please, We are just 2 minutes to the top of the hour. We will be closing 11 o'clock exactly. So any more question or comment for us? Okay, so without any further contributions from the participants or questions to answer, I would like to thank all of you very much for making the time to be here today. We'll continue to interact. Please don't forget to share all your information, your suggestions, your insights, your questions, whatever, in the appropriate channels. We'll be glad to receive them. We'll be glad also to respond to any challenges. Remember, if you have any technical difficulties, quickly just put it in the technical or tech-related issues channel on the Teams platform, or even share your issues on the WhatsApp group page. We'll be available to answer them. Thanks a lot, and have the best of the day and the rest of the week. Try and finish up the materials and do the course task that is going to be released on Friday. If you are already having backlogs at the pre-course assessment, the Module 1 evaluation, and the Module 1 quiz, please try and complete them by noon on Friday, the 1st of October. All the best to you, and God bless all of you. Bye-bye.